Approval of the agenda. Recommendation that the regular council meeting agenda for March the 25th, 2026 be approved as circulated. Councillor Bailey, Councillor Evans, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Adoption of minutes. Recommendation that the minutes of the regular council meeting held on March 11th, 2026 be adopted. Councillor McCabe, Councillor Evans, all in favor, and that's carried. Thank you. We are going to bylaws and policies. Zoning amendment bylaw number 118/2026, 222 Temple Street. There's a recommendation that the zoning amendment bylaw number 118/226 be given first and second reading this 25th day of March 2026. Could I get a mover on that? Councillor Evans and Councillor Bailey. And Nicole, do you want to take that away, please?
Yeah, thank you, through the chair. So we haven't talked about Temple Street in a while, but we have talked about it in length at some of the planning and development committee meetings. So we workshop what this could look like, and I'll do a presentation and we'll open it up for discussion. So the property is at 222 Temple Street, and currently it's designated town center under the OCP, and it's zoned MUR1 multi-unit residential. A little bit of the history as a reminder. So in late 2024, a development permit and development variance permit were issued that allowed the 73-unit townhouse development to proceed, and it relaxed some of the zoning and subdivision and development servicing bylaw requirements. Then phase development agreement bylaw came through early last year, and 2 of the proposed 23 buildings, which is phase 1, are currently under construction, and that was issued in summer of last year. The proposal for tonight is to add a site-specific regulation to zoning bylaw 1100/2024, and that would be under the MUR1 zone, and that would permit short-term rentals in 4 buildings consisting of 15 units, which is phase 1 and 2 in this tab only, at 222 Temple Street. So on the right-hand side, circled in red, there's 4 buildings. I guess the south half is building phase 1, building 1 and 2, and on the north there is building 3 and 4, phase 2. Okay. So yeah, a site-specific regulation can impose all kinds of limitations in our zoning bylaw. Typically, we use them to change some type of use or density. An example might be for subdivision, if you're creating a lot and it was smaller than what the zone permitted, you can do that through site-specific reg. There's a process to it, but that's just an example. So we can do quite a few things with this. After our discussion at the Planning and Development Committee and then internally with the CAO and June myself, we felt like it was better to draft this bylaw to permit these short-term rentals as described, and then to have how the short-term rentals are operated, maintained, enforced through the strata bylaws, which is typical throughout town. So as a extra level of comfort, what was suggested to the developer is that as a requirement of this site-specific regulation, we would like to enter into a covenant with the strata, so between the district and the strata, that further outlines the expectations of these short-term rentals and how they're operated. That way it's not in our bylaw and it's extremely firm. We can still work with the strata if there were any matters to address through that covenant. So the developer has been tasked with drafting a covenant that would be presented to council prior to adoption of this bylaw if it was supported. Well, there was a ton of future considerations that were discussed. So this proposal for short-term rentals might trigger future amendments to the existing development permit and the phase development agreement. An example why is short-term rentals require a lot more parking under our zoning bylaw. So per bedroom rented is 1 parking stall, and the existing multi-unit dwellings much less. It's 1.7 spaces per unit. So that means the short-term rentals would require some off-street parking, no parking, of course, on Temple Street. So that could change the configuration of the development as a whole, which is why it could trigger amendments to the development permit and phase development. So So we don't want this development to, well, I've probably spent quite a bit of money on any kind of premature redesign. We've recommended that any changes to the layout, like to accommodate for additional parking for short-term rentals would be addressed in the later phases of this development. Right now, phase 1 and 2 is obviously a very small portion of 222 Temple Street, and they have the entire rest of the lot to play with until they start to creep closer with the rest of the development, and they really have to think about what that parking looks like. So there could be a chance for, maybe Bianca, sorry, if we could go back one to that plan. On this drawing, this is phase 11 in the top right corner, and they've shown some parking in there. So there's a potential to lose those multi-unit dwellings in that space to accommodate for short-term rental parking for this proposal. If there was more short-term rentals throughout the development, because we don't know where this is going to go, then of course that would also have to be accommodated for in the future. Yeah, really, and this is how the Planning and Development Committee meeting had ended was, for council, the biggest decision is if short-term rental use is the best fit for this development. And on the right-hand side, just a quick map of our zoning is MUR1 is in orange there. Of course, that's what 222 Temple is. And then MUR2, for example, is in the gray, which is kind of along the waterfront there. And we have some residential in yellow. So we got a little bit of a mix here in the town center north or south of Main Street. Something else that was discussed at the Planning and Development Committee is, like, this is quite unique to permit short-term rentals in one portion of a future strata. If there was support from council, a full rezone to MUR2 is also a possibility instead of doing this, but the developer has proposed this now to, I guess, probably test the waters and see if this is going to work out. There's, in the staff report we mentioned, they've been working with their realtor on some marketing practices and some of the feedback that they've been giving or getting back from potential buyers and the interest for short-term rentals. So this is what they're proposing. Internal referrals, so both from operations and bylaw, they mentioned, of course, boat and trailer and standard vehicle parking should be accommodated for. No parking on Temple Street. From the fire department, they wanted to keep the unobstructed access as per the original agreements. Can't remember the number, but they're around 7 meters for their width of the access. And if you recall, we ensured that any internal parking was off of that 7 meters, so that was unobstructed, fire truck could get in and out for emergency services. They also mentioned to the fire department that if there were short-term rentals, of course, they require a fire inspection as part of the business licensing process. That would occur. And then there were no concerns from the building department for this. All 4 buildings are under application now. So the first 2 that are being built, the other 2 are under application. Good. So next steps. So we are doing first and second reading right now. And it's site-specific regulation. So I understand there's a public hearing that's required. We were just discussing that. And then you'd have to do notice to adjacent property owners, go into 3rd reading. Transportation would have to approve this one before adoption, and then adoption. We're just at the beginning of this. For the Planning and Development Committee, like I mentioned, we discussed it quite a bit. Resolution was passed to recommend council support the short-term rentals at 222 Temple Street. That is the recommendation for tonight.
All right, council. Any questions? PDC, do you guys want to give this a go? Yeah.
I guess I'm looking to Dean or Paul, just on the process here, as I just around the public hearing and process we have to go, because I think I don't know if we talked about this at the PDC, or we weren't quite sure how it had to go. Maybe we have better clarity. If we're gonna go to a whole rezone, why is it not just a whole rezone? Talk about if it went to to public hearing, the whole thing. Was there a reason why we're doing it this way if we're having to go through the whole process anyways?
The concept was to have an incremental, the opportunity to see how it works. For the 15 units instead of the whole development, being allowed to have vacation rentals.
Well, it's a curious thing to me too, because we have these. We've had so many of these discussions at council about how we feel short-term rentals ultimately are decided by stratas, right? But we do have this curious zoning of where we do MUR1, which doesn't permit it. And we kind of pick some places where MUR1 kind of exists. But most of strata always comes under MUR2, which under strata rules, if you so pick as a strata that you are permitting short-term rentals, then you're allowed, and council's been, I think, abundantly clear that we don't want to get into, you know, those decisions, that's ending up to the owners, like we've had the legacy debate here several times and others, right? So I'm just wondering, what is our continued rationale for having, and I guess that's a loaded question because I mean, we're the one who passed the bylaws. But I mean, I just wonder what is the current rationale, what is an ongoing rationale to have these zones? MR1 and MR2. It seems like if we want to have strata, it's enabled to decide these things. And why don't we just have one zone? And I'm asking for it, but I guess it's just something I'll float up there to council. But
So Nicole, just for clarification, so the builder's asking for two of the buildings to be zoned MUR2, just as a test market, is that correct?
Through the chair. So, just clarification, it's 4 of the buildings,
Okay.
phase 1 and 2, and the whole property would remain MUR1. And then we would have a site-specific regulation that says, hey, the 222 temple is MUR1, but in this section, they're allowed to have short-term rentals, which isn't a permitted use in MUR1.
Right, so my question is, for those that will be zoned MUR2, will they be a strata? Will they be managed as a strata and have a strata board?
Through the chair, yes, the intent of the developers to do phased building strata, so yes, there would be a strata council.
So if they choose to keep those 4 buildings MUR2 and have these buildings over here as MUR1, these don't need strata, these are under strata. Is it?
Just to be clear, so the MUR2 is not, they're not rezoning that portion of the property. It's the zoning bylaws being amended to allow for vacation rentals on these specific buildings. So it's not rezoning it to a different zone. It's very specific to,
Okay.
if you rezone the property, we've got to go back and redo all of the other zoning components that were completed last year, which is a major exercise, would take between 8 to 12 months to complete. So that's why we're looking at a text amendment for this specific, because it's not going to take us to an 8 to 12 month process.
Okay, that's good. Thanks for the clarification, but it will be run as a strata.
Correct.
Like the district will have, when people go in, if people do go in and have issues, there's a strata board that they will talk to. We are not responsible for that. Okay, all right. Councillor Bushel.
Yeah, through the chair, yeah, I support this concept. I think it's a good way to test the market, and right now things have changed since the developer initially started this development in the economy, in the world, and you know, we have to keep the ball rolling. And if the developer is willing to take the opportunity to go ahead and put 4 buildings aside to get some rentals in them and help sales, I support it. And I support this, so, so there 1 and 2, I guess you want to call it hearing 1 and 2. It's cold. Anyways, I support it.
Thanks. Councillor Rich and Councillor Evans.
Through the chair. Yeah, I support this too. I think that the builder's being very respectful, and he's gone through, it looks like he's gone through some of the things that we've gone through. He's read through what our issues have been with short-term rentals. So it looks like he's trying to get these sold and bring people into town. And also with our short-term short-term rentals, I think it gives a different venue for people to come and spend time in Sicamous.
Thank you, Councillor Evans.
Yeah, things have changed in the world, and just to keep this development going forward, I think we need to adapt. I took a tour of the site, and they have a lot of parking, off-street parking. So it's very well laid out, so you can park in the garage and outside the garage, and have the ample parking you need to make this fit. So.
Okay, Councillor Bushel.
Yeah, just to add to that, the proposal of the large parking lots in the back are, that's a huge component of short-term rentals, and developers accommodating that.
Anyone else? Councillor McCabe.
Yeah, I think the request reflects the need in the market, and we should adjust accordingly.
Yeah, I agree with you. Councillor Beach.
Yeah, I agree with this approach as well. I think that there's definitely a market for a short-term rental mix in there, and if we can kind of, if the builders are designing to sort of make it work better for the short-term rentals and people who want to not do short-term rental, then that kind of solves that big issue that we with it.
I'm in favor of this one as well. But this one, I don't want to see us doing this moving forward. I want it because it's complicated, right? So I think that people really need to do their homework and find out what their market is and then move from there, because this is kind of an odd little situation. So anyone else? Call the question. All in favor? Hey, Carrie, thank you. I missed the tour yesterday of 22 Temple. I don't recall getting an invitation.
There was no tour yesterday, and it's open invitation whenever you have time.
I know, I'm just giving you a hard time because everyone mentioned the tour today. Okay, so we're going to move to temporary use permit to application number 26 TUP 002, renewal of 23 TUP 0601214. Martinson Avenue and 26 TUP 003, renewal of 23 TUP 0611401 Botwell Avenue. The recommendation of the District of Sicamous Council approve a 3-year renewal of a temporary use permit number 23060 TUP for the subject property located at 1214 Martinson Avenue to continue operation of a short-term rental. So do we want do you want me to do, okay, yeah, okay. And that the District of Sicamous Council approve a 3-year renewal of temporary use permit number 23061 TUP for the subject property located at 1410 Botwell Avenue and to continue operation of a short-term rental. Can I get a mover? Councillor Evans, Councillor Bushel. Council, or Nicole, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I have a presentation. And just for clarification, there do have 3 temporary use renewals on the agenda tonight. This presentation, this first one is for 2 of the properties because it's the same owner. I'll go through these ones first. Okay. Okay, so the properties are 1401 Bellwell Avenue. That's in the, I would call it the Roma subdivision, just north of Highway 1. And then the second property is 1214 Martinson Avenue. It's across from the fire hall. Both are designated, oh, that's okay, low density residential, and then zoning is R1 general residential. For 1214 Martinson Avenue, so as part of the original TUP, the proposal was to operate this rental as part of a 5-year retirement plan. It is a single family dwelling. It's known as Songbird, on Airbnb or both. As part of the original TUP, fencing was required to be installed and that was done. Now, as part of this application, the renewal, the owner let us know that their retirement plans have been extended just due to family circumstances, and they requested to continue to operate the short-term rental for a further 3 years. For this property, there are no bylaw complaints associated with the short-term rental. For 1401 Bellwell Avenue, so same information as before, because it's the same owner. And this one is a single family dwelling, it's known as Four Season Place. There was one complaint on file for snow removal. The bylaw officer, I guess, went out there and took a look. They didn't see any bylaw infractions, but they decided to monitor. We haven't had a lot of snow this year, so that's where that one stands. Okay, so TOP renewals. Under the Local Government Act, a temporary use permit can be issued for a term up to 3 years, and these existing TUPs were issued for 3 years. They expire in May 2026. And they can be renewed once for an additional term, not exceeding 3 years, 6 max. No further renewals beyond that single renewal are permitted. And a TUP for a short-term rental is pretty unique because it's commonly used as like a test to see if a zone would be a different zone would be more appropriate for the use. In this case, it's on the next slide here. Some of the zones that currently permit short-term rentals are country residential. So this is another snip of our zoning map. That's in brown. They permit short-term rentals. MUR2, which we were just discussing in the last application, that's the gray color, more along the waterfront for the channel. And then RVP1 through RVP4, those rec vehicle parks. So in my opinion, none of those zones would be appropriate for these properties to rezone to, and that's why these TPs for the short-term rentals is kind of unique. And then I added this slide because I wasn't sure if everyone was aware, but the District of Six Moose has a short-term rental map. So if you are properly licensed through the district, there's this map available on our website. You can click and zoom in and click on any of these dots and just see what one it is, what their business license or is if they're valid. So for internal referrals, there was no concerns from the internal departments with the renewals. We had one letter of support from the public for 1214 Martinson, and that was attached to the agenda. At the Planning and Development Committee meeting, we discussed all 3 TUPs, and so that's why there's one resolution for all 3 in support of renewing them. And then for tonight, yes, the recommendation is to renew for the full 3 years for both properties.
Council, any comments? Okay, Council Bushel.
No, I just wanted to say I support it. It helps our MRDT fund. We had that conversation today. I think it brought in $44,000 for our revenue for the EDC. So yeah, I support it. We need short-term rentals in some capacity, and I support it.
Councillor Rich and Councillor Evans.
Through the chair. I support this. I think this is a really good example of owners doing everything right that have a short-term rental. They're local, they don't have complaints. And they're bringing families into town and supplying a service that our hotels can't. So if people are coming into town that want to come into larger groups like sledders, or maybe you're having a family reunion or something like that, they're supplying that accommodation, and that keeps people from going to Salmon Arm or Revelstoke. So yeah, I think they're doing a great job, and I'm 100% in favor.
Ditto. Could say better.
Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, I mean, I support it. We talked about it, and we've talked a lot about TPs in general. I think we're gonna get to the bigger conversation of somehow some council's going to anyways, but these are renewals, like that's why I support. We've been doing renewals on TUPs pretty consistently here, so to say this and I support it, and I'm glad to see that. Really curious about the snow complaint that we've been done this year, but that's a different one. But yeah, no, I support it, and I think there's an ongoing kind of discussion. You know, maybe 3 years ago, short-term rentals was a very likely charged more, and now there seems to be a larger kind of discussion about how do they go into a proper mix and a proper use in towns. You know, we've seen other towns where it's been banned and then there's been knock-on effects in their municipality. So it's kind of interesting that there's still an ongoing conversation around STRs and what the proper use in the town is. I don't think anyone's figured it out. I don't know if we figured it out yet, but it's certainly progressing, and it's nice to see that we've set down rules and people are following them, and that's, I think, really good for the integrity of our short-term rental bylaw. And so that's great to see.
So based on the bigger set of rules, and this was up 3 years ago when short-term rentals went into specific zones. And one of the reasons that council allowed these to go into short-term rentals is because the new process and the staff had been tasked with rezoning the entire community. So it has been zoned. So these TUPs sit in non-conforming zones. So they aren't allowed there. And we have rules in place and zoning in place, and we set precedent. And staff is continually asked if people can have a TUP for short-term rental in non-conforming zones. And staff are faced with that task of saying no to those people, because we've asked staff to make up these rules and these zonings. We're sitting here going, okay, and staff is tasked with telling people no after we have allowed short-term rentals in zones that don't conform. So I personally have a problem not supporting my staff with this, our staff with this. So I'm not going to be in favor of this, as I wasn't last 3 years ago. I voted against this because of staff doing their job and us saying, okay, well, we're just going to allow it. So no, I'm not going to support this because of that. And moving forward, our new OCP doesn't allow short-term rentals in any other zones. So my opinion is I don't want staff to still have to say no while we're putting 3 more through. So it's just not fair, and it says something to the community. So I will not be in favor. Anyone else? Councilor Bailey.
I mean, those points are all valid. Totally ridiculous. I mean, and we've had this discussion, and I'm glad that we're dealing with the OCP. Because we've had a problem with temporary use permits, because they're like the nuclear bomb of planning, right? It just wipes out any of your stuff that you did. And it's completely ridiculous on a policy level. Oh, and I mean, I'm voting for this thing, but it's ridiculous on a policy level, because you do all of this work around planning, OCP and everything. And then there's this one provision that allows you to override it all. Right, and it's arbitrary. It's literally a vote by council, and I think that is something we need, and I'm glad we're going to deal with it. That we're going to put strong constraints on that, because you're right, it doesn't make sense. But we've done that on a number of different projects since I've been at this council, and again, it's all based on how council feels too. Right, that's the only criteria for this, is that there isn't anything uniform that gets applied, other than, yeah, we think that's good for the community, and that's how we mostly vote it. So I acknowledge and agree. I just feel that we've allowed this in the past, and I'm going to do the renewal. But I also want to say to staff that I'm glad that they put the time and effort into putting some rigor around this, because we've seen the requests more and more, and it is a troublesome trend. Because how do you say yes to one and say no to the other? It's that's
what we're doing.
And the absurdity of it. But I'm glad that we acknowledged it, and we're going to start fixing it. So,
Councilor Rich, and then Councilor Robbins.
Through the chair, yeah, I agree, Colleen. I think the other thing that with our OCP and maybe with all the changing trends, we've had the provincial government step in with short-term rentals. We have put some pretty firm, the staff has done a wonderful job with the bylaws that we put on short-term rentals. We've increased our fees for short-term rentals. So maybe the next council revisits the whole short-term rental bylaws. And maybe that's something that needs to be looked at and changed. I feel like overall, Sycamoose is doing a really good job with our short-term rentals. So is staff. So if we're undercutting staff, that's definitely a bylaw that maybe the next council looks at. And maybe we need to revisit on what we're doing on the entire town. Things have changed a lot in 3 years, including the number of housing projects happening in Sycamoose and spaces for people. And that was one of our bigger things. And we've got lots of new builds coming in. Just food for thought.
Thank you. But yeah, and I understand that, but back to staff still has to be the ones that are saying no after we put these through. So I just, I just find I just want to support staff. Go ahead, Councillor Evans.
Yeah, thank you through the chair. TUPs, I see them kind of like a sandbox that sometimes you have to be able to use them to go with the flow. So you got a little bit of we've talked about adaptability and the fact that things change, we have to adapt sometimes. And as long as we're not being stupid, which I don't think we are, and we're doing these case by case, and that's why I think it's good to have a lot of conversations so you can adapt to these things. But ultimately, the OCP will answer the question. But that's one of the reasons the OCP, I think, every 5 years there's a refresher on it, because I think we have to also be able to adapt to reality in a fast changing world. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you. Councillor Beach.
Well, so a lot of these people come and spend time for 4 months in the summertime, and then they rent it out to somebody for 8 months in the winter, because that's their pattern, or it varies depending on what their sport is. So I'm kind of like, I rented in a situation like that 2 years. And so are we gonna turn people away if we go to stick with no short-term rentals in certain areas? Are those people going to still want to come and buy property if they cannot do a rental while they're not in place? Like, is that considered a short-term rental like that? I think we talked about that.
I understand what you're saying. However, staff has gone through the entire community and zoned specific spaces for short-term rentals. So if you're someone coming into town and you want to purchase and have a short-term rental, you need to look in that zone.
Yeah.
As opposed to moving into somewhere that doesn't have short-term, you're residential on Tree Street where kids are always playing. And that was one of the reasons that we kind of moved away from this. Then no, you can't have a short-term rental there. It's not zoned for that. You're non-compliant.
We're inconsistent, so I guess.
Well, actually, we haven't been. We've been pretty good since 3 years ago when we put short-term rentals in, which were these three were allowed to go through. So, but I felt like council went, you know what, it's very short notice right now. And we'll just, put them through. But TUPs are an interesting tool.
That what you're going for too.
It's not a word, yeah. Go ahead, Councillor Bushel.
Yeah, through the chair, you got to remember when we started this, we had a ton of short-term rentals, and we had a problem in the community, and the hotels, they wanted us to do something about it. And we wanted to create a MRDT tax that would help fund our Economic Development Corporation and tourism, right? And our tourism committee. So we went out to all the hotels and we begged them to sign this agreement that we would have short-term rentals, and we did a good job at it. We did a really good job. But if we just said no short-term rentals and even if you just allowed them in some of the hotels or the condos on the waterfront, we would lose a ton of winter business. They would all be going to Belmont that have short-term rentals and Revelstoke. They'd all be going elsewhere because they do take up more room. They like to have more room. I mean, our hotels are full. Like if you did away with all short-term rentals, our hotels would be packed. But we need short-term rentals to accommodate our sledders in the wintertime for sure.
And, yeah, and I can appreciate that. And we have a lot of short-term rentals in Sycamoose. So, that are conforming to what they should be. So I'm just saying, and we are creating more as we did tonight. So, short-term rentals aren't going away. All we're talking about is non-conforming right now. We do have a lot of conforming short-term rentals and a lot of that space, so. Go ahead.
Well, I guess the other piece of information that we should put out there is the reason these got the top in the first place is we were just instituting our short-term rental law at this time. And these properties have traditionally been short-term rentals, and they have been. So I remember at the time, I mean, having a little bit more experience on council, understanding the road made with cups and how you get into doing silly things as you don't anticipate the unintended consequences. You agree to the temporary use permit because of this transition. And, this is kind of the renewal. So that's how I look at it. And I think all the points that have been made on short-term rentals and temporary use permit, 100% valid. There's nothing wrong that's been said at all. And that's why you gotta put more rigor around how we use these tools. I mean, I personally think going forward, TUPs need to be extremely limited, if at all. Because that's why you zoning. We spent a lot of time on this. And then for us just to swipe it all aside because, we have a presentation for our council, or it puts councilors in an awkward position to say no, especially in a small community. It's just not a good way of operating. But we've got to, I think, kill the use of that. I don't actually agree that they're good at all. But on the renewal process and how we went down this road, we did a renewal for Paradise as well. And I think everyone voted for that. The Paradise renewal, that was not a proper use. That's not allowable use, but council felt, okay, let's do that. But it's still not a permitted use to have a hotel and camp spots, just not. But we used that procedure. So again, we're not even consistent even on our renewals. Like, I mean, we renewed that one, well, we don't want to renew these. We're not consistent on it, and that is the problem. The policy problem is because we don't have any rules around it. It is just a decision of most councilors. And the more that we can do to strip that away and start putting some rules around, the better we're gonna be. So I look forward to the OCP. I know we're gonna have a lot of discussions on that, but the more we can limit this and actually put some fairness around it, I think. So anyways, I just wanted to add that context of how this actually happened, because that short-term bylaw was brand new.
Yeah, for sure. And a couple things, that when that short-term bylaw was, the owners did say they had retirement plans and we're just gonna use it for 3 years. And to address Paradise is a TUP was the correct tool for Paradise, because if Paradise wants rezoning now, that comes back to council as what it is now. He took a motel, added some spots and some parking, and made his commercial business a little bit bigger. So that TUP actually was how it was, supposed to be used. If you look over at the bottle depot, where a recycle depot is, that was a TUP. When that first started, and Gord, you remember this, Bob, you remember this, that was a TUP. And it worked. So he got rezoned to that. So a TUP is a bit of a test market. So that you can change the zoning in. So anyway, I guess anyone else have anything to add to this? Call the question, I guess all in favor? And opposed? Thanks, guys. Good conversation on TUPs.
That's all
Okay, temporary use permit application number 26 TUP 001, renewal of 23110 TUP 1321 Roma Avenue. There's a recommendation the District of Sycamoose Council amend temporary use permit number 23110 TUP to permit year-round use and remove the requirement for a $500 security deposit. And that the District of Sycamoose Council remove a 3-year renewal of amended temporary use permit number 23110 TUP for the subject property located at 1321 Roma Avenue to continue to operate a short-term rental. Can I get a mover on that? Councillor Bailey, Councillor Beach, Nicole?
Okay, thank you, through the chair. So, one more TUP to discuss tonight. And yeah, we've already gone through, okay, thank you. So the property is located at 1321 Roma Avenue. Again, it's in the Roma subdivision, just north of the Highway 1 there. It's also designated rural density residential and zoned. Okay, so as part of the original TUP application, the applicant wanted to operate the short-term rental as part of a development plan to construct a second dwelling on the property. As you can see, it's kind of a longer lot. It touches 2 different roads. It's got a great area for a potential secondary dwelling. So right now, though, it's a single family dwelling. It's known as Stay with Mo. It's on Airbnb. When I spoke with the owner of the property, they still intend to do a second dwelling on the property, but they have requested additional time to do that. So they would also like to operate the short-term rental for a further 3 years. This property has not received any bylaw complaints. Okay, so this one's a little bit different than the last two. As part of our review of the existing TUPs, kind of read through what's there. And in this one, we noticed that it was restricted to operation from March to November. And as far as we can tell, they probably operated year round. And when speaking with the owner, they weren't entirely aware of this restriction March to November. They said at the time that they applied for the original TUP, they had mentioned that they come certain months of the year and then the rest of the year was open for rentals, but they did pop in and out. And that's why a long-term rental wouldn't work for them and the short-term rental was proposed. And then that's where they thought the March to November restriction came in. So they're requesting to rent year-round like the other 2 temporary use permits. And then also with this one, and it's a standard in a lot of development permits, and a $500 security deposit was required. And according to our records, we haven't received that deposit. The other 2 temporary use permits didn't require that deposit. And we're suggesting, and they're requesting, that it not be required. The deposit would typically be used to revert the property back to the original use. In this case, because it's a single family dwelling and nothing's changed, there's nothing to revert back to. So we'd be comfortable not asking for this security deposit on this TUP as well. So our recommendation would be to first amend the TUP, and then if we go into the next slide, renew it. So we're renewing the amended TUP to remove those 2. So same thing as the last TUP, Local Government Act, we can issue up to 3 years, and this one it also expires in May. And no further renewals beyond this one if it was approved. And for internal department, no concerns with the renewal, and the committee included it in their recommendation of support with the other 2. Yes, so we got 2 recommendations, just for clarification. One is to first amend the existing TUP to remove, or I guess to permit year-round use and remove the $500 security, and then we would review the amended TUP for the further 3 years.
Council, any questions? No one's got anything to say about TUP. Been there, done that. Okay, all in favor? 1 opposed. Thank you. Okay, we had a water course development permit 21-1383 Silver Sands Road. Recommendation of the District of Sycamoose authorize issuance of a water course development permit number 260 P002 property located at 21-1383 Silver Sands Road. Can I get a mover? Councillor Evans, Councillor Bushel.
Thank you, Chair. On this file, so just a quick presentation on a couple.
Hey. Go ahead, June.
Okay, this concerns the water course development permit application from subject vicinity 21 1383 Silver Sand Road. This permit came as a two building permit application, one to build and the other to build accessory structure that is extension to the existing vertical field. And we use the second slide. So that depicts the existing parkable trail location and a two proposed buildings. As the properties that comes with the beautiful view, also comes with a number of responsibilities. Although this application was started as a two building permit application, the site owner had to go through the water course development permit process, mainly because of its proximity to the water course. So with the visual above, we kind of see that most majority of proposed food structures are within a 30-meter range from the high water, therefore triggering the water course development permit process. We hired by the property owner successfully acquired the provincial vetting not that long ago. Therefore, we are bringing this application for the council consideration plan. Upon the issuance of a water course development permit, two building permit application that has been withheld will be issued shortly. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, any questions? Just going to be,
Oh, yeah,
and
been around for.
How long? It originally started as last year's October. That's where the two applications came in. Staff through a discussion with the proponent identified a number of aspects, and at the inception, the proposal would actually require a number of variances to overcome the design challenges. However, with the conversation with staff, proponent agreed to adjust number of the considerations so that it wouldn't require additional variances. Major point of time consumption in regards to this particular application was mainly understanding of the site in its context to the water works. So there was a number of understanding from the original developer of that vicinity where one would have a interpretation that may be slightly different to that of a provincial one. Not to blame, that is because of they change the regulation time to time and they update, therefore restrictions or the policies get stricter than that of the previous years. The staff assisted the proponent to sort those understandings out, therefore it's no longer an issue.
okay. Any more comments? Let's call the question, all in favor? And that's carried. Okay, we're moving right along. Wastewater treatment facility. Oh, wait, am I missing something? Did I miss something? Oh, sorry, civic address change. Oh, yes, sorry. Kind of scribbled it. I just went. Recommendation that council adopt civic address change compensation policy number D11 this 25th day of March 2026. Can I get a mover? Councillor Beach, Councillor McCabe. Go ahead, June.
This presentation regards the proposed policy. It is designed to aid public with administrative for the district needs a civic address changes. So the proposed compensation method to this policy is providing a flat rate, one-time allowance for up to $50 for each parcel directly affected by the district initiated changes. Number of the consideration were made mainly considering the compensation method, what may be the best for community of our size. So like we consider a number of approaches and we pick the best will likely to ensure degree of consistency and then reduce the administrative challenges so that so therefore the compensate one-time compensation for $50. I just want to go over three quick benefit of consideration of this policy. First is to help cultivate a public safety and emergency response capacity. Second is to deliver correction of historical error. And then the third, but not the least, is providing of a consistent and transparent expectation to the affected property owners, and discussion of clear understanding and then compensation expectation comes with the mandatory address adjustment. Just for the little background on why these policies developed, there is a one district driven proposal. We did subjecting the whole town property, about 51 properties that will likely to be affected. So this policy was developed in relation, the policy will benefit all the properties or could be applicable, all the properties within the district. This idea was originally rooted for that project. On the one aspect that may be important that I mentioned tonight is the financial or budgetary implications. So just want to go over even the optional consideration of tonight's policy, other than Old Town Road facilities, major civic addressing correction. We are not anticipating any other major scope of district-driven address changes. So it's going to be very temporary and one time only, and it is expected to cost less than 3,500 for that particular vicinity of the Old Town. Just for the context.
Okay, go ahead, Dean.
Thank you very much, Jim. So as we're doing policies, and since I started here last year, where we identify we don't have a supporting policy that comes from council, we're creating that policy and bringing it forward to you. So we have a consistency for the future. So you saw this with, for example, street closures last year, we brought forward a policy as we look at street closures. So as we're working through different components, we're not looking under all the rocks, but as we uncover something under a rock, we're creating a policy so that for the future, there's more consistency. And that's why exactly James brought this forward.
Okay, any other comments? Bianca?
I have just one because I think it's really interesting. June reached out to Canada Post to ask kind of what their process is for things like this. So when a municipality makes a civic address change, Canada Post actually, for a year's time, will properly forward the mail when that change happens, so that property owners have ample time to, update your address with everyone. So it is a pain in the butt, but Canada Post does that free of charge.
Okay, and I think we've asked this question before on this, but have all the 51 residents have they been notified?
Sorry, thank you, through the chair.
Whoever.
Okay, so the plan was to, I think we introduced the civic address change proposal for Old Town Road, what our idea was and how we were gonna do the civic addressing, then developing this policy, and now we can use this policy to approach the public and say, this is what's happening, and here's what we have to help you with this change.
Okay,
So that's coming if it is endorsed tonight.
okay,
Wow.
a lot of pressure. Okay, any other comments? Let's call the question. All in favor? And that's carried. Thanks. Thanks, Jim. Okay, wastewater treatment facility aggregate supply, a recommendation that council award request for quotation number 114.1.0070.07. Oh, he's getting his stick. Rapid infiltration basin aggregate supply to Sycamoose Concrete and Gravel with a unit price contract of $947,068 plus GST. Did I get a mover? Councillor Bushel, Councillor Evans, you guys look really excited about that. Okay, Daryl, take it away. Make it fun.
Thank you. There. I better grab the stick before you saw the amount and tried to stick on me.
And there we go.
Where we are, where we've been. So around 2017, moving up, we got a grant, sizable grant, 2.2 million, to do some capital upgrades at the wastewater plant. The aim of those pieces, and it took some time to get those pieces in place, but as we started to build and put those pieces in place, it was all towards improving the quality of the influence. So we get the raw sewage come in, and all of these pieces, the headworks building was screening out the plastics and the papers so that it didn't end up in our lagoons for maintenance. We put a baffle in the first lagoon to drive all the sewage through a geofabric. There's an opening in the middle, so it would flow right through the diffusers to get more aeration. We added 74 diffusers along that lagoon to get more aeration again. And then back in the main building, we had a 40-horse blower installed in there as well. So the air got boosted right up to help us with our BODs, our biological oxygen demand, which is a big component of treating the effluent. So a couple more pieces. We put in a generator to keep the plant moving when the power's down. So a big 250 kW generator runs the plant. Disc filter at the end, which took out all the suspended solids. So we put a pretty good amount of money into the front end of the plant to clean everything up coming in. And it helped us meet our numbers immediately. As these pieces went in, our BODs were no longer an issue. Suspended solids were getting captured by the filter. Phosphorus, we tweaked the chemical a little bit. Not so much a capital project, but we've got that really well in line as well. So the problems that we had to up until that period, they were resolved. And we were feeling pretty good about ourselves in 2023 when we commissioned the plant with the final piece, which was the disc filter. We had a tech memo that was sent off to MOE from our engineer of record, saying that we're doing a great job cleaning up the front end of the plant. And we should be good for 2,000 cubes a day, which is a really good number. Back in 2023, that was a great number because even during peak time, we were only seeing 1,000 cubes a day in July. So we were sitting pretty well, and we were pretty happy with ourselves. But quality is only half of the equation. So we did a really good job of what was coming in. And so the limiting factor for us now is the percolation. It's what we do with the back end of the plant. So we've treated this stuff really well. We can continue to treat it to a level of 2,000 cubes a day. But we don't have the ability to get rid of it. And that's the problem. We've got 3 rapid infiltration basins in place that were commissioned back 28 years ago. You go back to the commissioning report, and it wasn't the ideal granular sand that was used at the time. I mean, we've done really well, and the guys have done a tremendous job of maintaining these beds the best they can. When we get to the summer peak, we get to a point where we can't rotate through 3 basins. We've got three swimming pools, and we're just trying to keep aiming for the lowest one. Really, what you need to do is dry them right out and get this mounding thing, which is a real thing. You've got the aquifer that actually builds up water from the drainage and just doesn't have a chance to go anywhere. So the idea is to drain them out really well, scarify them with some shanks, and the guys do that best they can. But in the summer, we're pressed and we can't. So that's kind of why it's happening. It's because the peak flows have increased, and our rotations to go through those beds isn't what it used to be. And we had a lot of trouble last summer. Leaves us with no opportunity to work the surface, get that drying and draining and cracking that we need to really dry them out. That coupled with the fact that they are 28 years old, there's lots of fine sands and silts that are in there, and fats, oils, and greases from years back. So it's just really time for a rehab on those beds. And there's really not a lot we can do with them. So I know I've shown this graph before. I'll show it one more time. This is just an average flow through the summer months. And so let's just look at July here in red. So back in 2023, our peak average was around 1,000 cubes a day. So just over the last couple of years, we're pushing 1,300. And these are averages. So there's peaks where we exceed 1,300 on a given day for a week at a time. So trend is definitely up. It's been up a lot when you you plan for the future, you think 2 to 5% growth, maybe. You could argue here, you know, from where we were in 2023, the summer of 24, 25, we've gone up 30% 2 years. So it's a lot. This is the layout. These are the old basins here that we drain. So we come through that disc filter at the end, and then we will turn some valves and we will fill up a basin to a point. We want to get it up about a foot, not too much higher. And then we'll rotate to another one, and we'll rotate to another one. We can go through that process, keeping one dry at a time and working the surface on it. Like I say, when the peak flows get so high and they all get saturated, you've got 3 swimming pools, and then it just gets worse and worse and worse. So we kind of got into that situation last summer. We made a bit of a plan to see if we could get an emergency infiltration basin built as quickly as we can. So we've been working with MOE on that. They understand the urgency, they understand the importance of it. They've been super good. We're still working through that permitting process with them to get 4 built. We recognize that we'd like to get 1 and 2 dug right out and replaced as well with some good coarse sand. So there's 90% design of 4 that we've been working on. That's kind of where it would lay out. It's been surveyed and we've got this to 90% design. There's a few little things we may need to tweak, but that's kind of the layout of where it would be. So Solstice Road's over here. The dog park, there's still a lot of entrance to get into the back or to get to the little kayak trail. That's what it would look like from Solstice Road. So we've got that little indent over here, so we could just come off of that, pass through. That's kind of what's being proposed for the RIB4. I will mention that we did do an RFP late in the year last year, looking for general contractors to take this on for us, give us some pricing. We gave them a lot of control over it. We had a spec sheet from a hydrogeologist, so we knew what we needed for granular material. We said, you guys source it, give us a price on what it would cost to dig out an RIB and find your own source of rock that meets this. And there was such variation in price. We had like 0 level of comfort and I was getting calls from quarries saying, you know, can we have a few more fines in it, or can we do this, or can we do that? So we pulled that RFP, the uncertainty, and decided to go with a pre-qual to the quarries directly. So we put out an expression of interest for the quarries in the area with a very prescriptive formula to make that sand and take that element right out of the RFP that's going to go out to the contractors. With that came a great opportunity because we were going out to the quarries, and I figured, you know, if we're going to have a bunch of great rock coming in here after we dig it out, we want to see that old sand leave. So we made that part of the process. They would need to get the old sand back to the quarry. So it's a big win. I won't get into the weeds. This is the spec sheet, and I guess just of note. This red section, this hatch section here is the coarse filter media. It's about an inch and a half, and it kind of tapers down to about 3 mils. So it's all rock. It's basically all rock. And the green would be the fine that we're sourcing as well. And the reason I want to throw that on there is just so you see the black hatch line here. That's kind of what's in situ now. That's how fine the material place is. And it's way over here on the scale. So we're well under a millimeter, right, for a lot of that stuff. It's too fine. So that's why it's sealing off. So RIB4, we've been doing some work. We had some test pits done last week. We wanted to go out there and actually see where the water table is, although we do have a ground monitoring well, and we've got data all around this plant. We wanted to just get our eyes on it, see what the surface, how much topsoil is on the surface, and what the aggregate is below. And it was pretty encouraging. It was coarse. We're getting closer to the river. So it was a little raw here. It drains really, really well. So Percolation tests, you can do them in different ways. We employed all three methods to find out how well that stuff would drain. This was the guy we hired, and he put a lot of water to this, and it was just disappearing. He was super happy. So that report's being done. I got a meeting with them tomorrow morning. But really encouraging for RIV4 if we're going to go that way. So what is underway right now is that design, like we said, 90% complete. We're still working with the permitting. ALC just got back to me. They've got all the information they need, and they're reviewing this now for their blessing on that. We put an application in a while ago. Test bits were done, and then they do a hole beside a hole, and they measure the horizontal conductivity, and they've got all kinds of formulas. It looks really good early on. So granular pricing confirmation, that's kind of what we're talking about here tonight. We have got a best price in here that we're recommending. And then with that, we would take that to go into the RFP for construction. So we've got a set figure for unit price. So that would be our next step. We did put out that submission for looking for pre-qualification of quarries. We took the two closest ones that were in the area that could take the old material with them and could make enough of the material and get a level of confidence that they could create what we needed them to. So tonight I'm recommending that we go with concrete and sand, Sycamore concrete and sand for that amount. So we're seeking a council resolution for that. And then, like I said, the unit price would be incorporated into a request for proposals, and they'll be embedded in the RFP because of, yeah, the timeline was tight. So I should still get rolling.
Thank you, Daryl.
Yeah.
Council, any questions? Go ahead, Councillor Bailey.
I have a few here actually, but I'll start off with this one. So the 1 million is just for the get where do we feel like construction or these other pieces are going to constitute? Because, you know, I was hoping we're going to be around the 1 million bucks total,
All in.
but clearly not.
No.
And clearly a lot more than that. Am I right in that?
It would be more for sure. It's significantly more. We have a good idea what it'll come in at, and I think
So what's the idea?
well, and I think kind of what Bianca walked everybody through with the financial setup for this gives us a level of comfort. Yeah, there's some borrowing that would have to happen, and I'm eternally grateful that she deals with all that stuff. We've got some ideas on our side. We're always looking for better ways to save money. So we would go to RFP for construction. We have an idea of the first submission we went out. We kind of know what they were looking at or what they were submitting to do an RIV. So you know, without landing on a dollar value, like it's safe to say that the aggregate's going to make up probably half of this project. Okay, so it'll be top there.
2 million.
But there's a new RIV that needs to be built. 4 needs to be built, and there's a significant cost in building the berm around it. Just bringing in the material for that and reinforcing that. We've got some of the fines from the old stuff that we're pulling out of there. We're going to look to infuse that into that, so we're saving some of the money. We've already worked into the removal of the RIV. I know you're talking about what's the cost going to be, and I'm telling you all the things we're saving. I know it's still going to be a lot. I'm really encouraged with the test pits that we did, because we got down 52 inches, and we saw some really coarse sand that was the walls were actually falling in, and so. You know, the hydrogel he gets really excited. And so he got excited, I got excited. I pulled some of that out, we sent it to the lab, and they're doing a report on it now. I did hear from them today that it's looking very encouraging. My hope, my thinking is, you know, if we get down to that really good coarse layer and it's not that far down, we can maybe employ using some of that in one of our strata that we put in. So there might be some savings along the way. We're looking at everything. So
Maybe I just have a flaw.
Yep, go ahead.
Direct it to make, I'm gonna take you off of the hot seat there. Well, I think since we're talking about this, you need to. And I know you don't have quotes on it, but I mean, we need to engage, I think, people in this. This is gonna be a big project and we won't take debt on, there's no question that we have to take debt on this project. So that's why I'm kind of trying to nail down, like, where are we? We're 2 million, 2.5. So it sounds like, and I'll take the pressure off here, we're somewhere between 2 and 3 million by the time we start getting everything in. That's probably, is that an accurate range?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Bianca.
So right now, like Daryl has worked with the engineer Urban Systems to kind of give a rough ball. So we're at about 2.1 million. With it, that's a 10% contingency included in there. They feel okay with the information we have right now with that number. Yeah, we have, over 900,000 in front of us today. Additional to that, we're gonna have trucking. I think we penciled that out to, we're gonna have about 900 loads, dump truck loads coming in and out. So that's about $300,000 right there. Yeah, so 2.1 right now, total project cost, of which right now we're looking at about 1.5 million in debt. However, that number could significantly change with DCC income coming in and current DCC projects that we're looking at potential for even just this year alone. Me and Dean have kind of looked at that, and that kind of ranges between like 200,000 to like full built out, potentially $500,000. So that's good news, but that's also a bit of a question mark too, right? So those are just our high level numbers at this point.
Councillor Evans.
Yeah, just thank you through the chair. Just a comment about, we talked about this during our finance committee meetings about how much stuff has gone up in cost. And I think that's the brutal reality of what we're seeing here is the material has gone through the roof. And yeah, it's a pain, but we have to get it done.
Yeah, I agree. Council, any other questions? Councillor Bushville.
No, Bianca answered everything I was
Okay.
thinking about, but Daryl, thanks very much for you and your team
For
for
doing what you're doing. It's
it's a big job. It's a big undertaking. I'm trying to nail down a number. And I know you guys are trying to save as much as you can.
and the cost of gravel is,
And
the cost of trucking.
And I'll echo that as well. Thanks, Daryl, and to your team, and for keeping your eyes on the ball and finding ways that we can save money for our community and, get the job done correctly, right? So, Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, so a couple more questions and all. So yeah, we briefly touched on this in just video the whole today and a little bit in finance. I just want to make sure that we're approaching this with a lot of buffer in terms of what we're able to do financially because of the debt that we're going to get on our hands, right? Where do we start getting into issues if this goes beyond 2.1 million? Do we have enough fiscal capacity in terms of, let's say if it's 2.8 million, right, which is projects happen, do we have enough of that ability to continue this? Look at other contingencies.
Yeah. So through the chair. So right now, the debt servicing costs of this level of debt is about 128,000 a year. So yes, we do have quite a bit of room actually, without even actually being required to go out to the electors. So that's encouraging. We have quite a bit of room, 130,000. If you just looked at our general tax base, about 2.1% tax increase, really, or 2.5, I would say. Yeah, we do have room.
And then just another question. So we have this piece tonight. When's the next anticipated piece coming forward in terms of the construction side of it? Is that a longer lead item or is this just gonna run in a very quick succession?
Through the chair, this would be as quickly as I can pull it all together.
And then just another question with MOE, is there an anticipated timeline for those approvals to come through? Or is it, I guess what I'm asking is this like months or are we down to weeks now with that process?
Through the chair, we're looking at probably 2.5, 3 months.
And just one more, if I may. So the start of the construction then would have to happen after those permits, so we're looking at a summer?
Yes, so through the chair, I guess the beauty of the work we're doing in the yard now, RID 1 and 2, Emily's well aware of it, we don't need a permit. It's maintenance, we're just doing maintenance, and they're good at that. RID 4, they've committed to try to streamline this for us. They've encouraged us to meet a bunch of marks along the way that we are doing, the hydrologists and the engineering and all that. There may be a point where we're actually submitting our application and building based on a level of comfort that we get back from them. So I'll defer to the engineer on that, but it's sounding like everything's gonna be fine and they'll move it as quickly as they can. They know we need it.
But we anticipate this to be a 2026
Oh, yeah.
summer, fall project.
So Daryl, just to clarify, the works that you've done on 1 and 2, I mean, they will get us through the summer, through busy season. Correct?
We haven't done the work on 1 and 2 yet. So that is part of all of this. The aggregate will be used for 1, 2, and for 4.
Okay, sorry, I thought that some work had been done on.
Just for clarification, we did some scarification and scraping work just as a maintenance work to help us get through this year or this last fall.
That's right.
Get us into this year.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
And just so we're clear, I think I understand what the full scope here is. You're doing a full rehab on 1 and 2. And you're building 4, so it's a full dig out of 1 and 2.
Yes.
With all the brand new aggregates, so there's gonna be brand new filtration ponds with an additional number 4. And that's the scope of it, but we won't be able to do 1 and 2 until you go through and we get that MOE approval as well, but no, actually, you said we can do that.
We're good
Okay.
for 1 and 2.
So 1 and 2
I
will
thought
be the
that
first,
was-
and then you'll get the permits, and then you'll be, okay.
Okay, go ahead, Daryl.
Because of remarkable efforts like
Yeah.
people like Daryl, we've gotten through 20 years.
Oh,
We've got through today. So there's been a lot of work to keep it rolling. So this is an opportunity. We'll carry us into the future with a plan that we can roll.
Yeah. Good. Councillor Rich and Councillor Bushel.
Through the chair. Yeah, I just want to say thanks again to Daryl and staff for this. I know this is, it's lots of money. We don't have another choice. And the longer, if we don't do this tonight, it just makes costs go up. And at the end of the day, we need to flush our toilets. And it's as Sycamoose grows, we know we have a problem. So I think we just have to go for it and just do what the best we can here.
Thank you, Councillor Bushel.
Yeah, through the chair, Dean, did we set a date for our tour?
I put it out to council. I'm waiting to hear back. I only had one councillor express an interest in the tour.
I would love to go on that. Like,
wanna send it
we
again
send the email
tomorrow?
again tomorrow. And
thank you.
only Councillor Rich had got back to me about.
Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, I'm not trying to mitigate this, so it's just so staff doesn't, but I do want the information out there and I want some clarity around it because obviously some people around here have to make sure we're comfortable with the financial side, so that's why I'm asking the question.
Yep.
I'll do this, they pay in hands. Well, anyways, I guess, so just, I guess, one other question. Have we thought about if this doesn't go quite exactly to plan, some potential contingencies? Like if we had some issues or I know we're not anticipating any issues, but have we kind of thought about what we do?
Well, I think the planning, the designing for RIV4 is that contingency.
Okay.
I'm hopeful that the rehab of 1 and 2 it'll carry us. Yeah, I think, but I will feel a lot better knowing 4 is there when we need it.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think you do 1 and 2 is hopefully you're going to have your base capacity, like, but then as we did 4, and you were talking about earlier, our capacity was around 2,000 cubes. with the rehab of 1 and 2 and the addition of 4, is that kind of also where the engineer thinks we're gonna be around 2,000 capacity? They're gonna have to see.
Yeah, it's a little early to say that. I think we'll comfortably with what we have proposed, be able to handle what we've got today. We're not building out for a long term. The way we're growing, we need to handle today and tomorrow.
Yeah, I totally agree that we have to support the study.
Okay, Dean?
It's one of the things I thought that was really good when I brought forward was the most limiting factor we saw in the RFPs was the aggregate. So instead of just going forward with an RFP selection based on that, we went back, let's remove the most variable factor, separate that out, do an RFP for that material, get the correct material that's gonna work, so we don't have that uncertainty. The building of the berms and all of those things are pretty standard construction pieces. So getting the variable component out of the equation is a really smart way to go back to an RFP. Now we know what we're getting excavator costs, we're getting building of berms, we're getting things we know about. There's not gonna be uncertain, and more importantly, the people that are bidding are gonna know about it. This is meat and potatoes for them. It's not uncertainty, because you're not building in factors of uncertainty in their costs that we have to then absorb.
Perfect. Okay, let's call, yeah. Go ahead.
I just want to say thank you to Daryl. It's obviously been quite an interesting work that you've had to go through. So thanks very much for that.
Yep, thanks, Terrell. Okay, let's call the question. All in favor? Okay, and that's carried. Thank you. Okay. Janitorial request for proposal results. Recommendation that council award the janitorial services contract to Be Clean building maintenance as the highest scoring proponent resulting from the request for proposal number 220-20-167 for an annual amount of $57,291 plus applicable taxes for a 2-year term, and that corporate officer and mayor be authorized to execute the service agreement. Daryl, do you want to?
Sure, I can. Yeah, to the chair.
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
I need a mover. Councilor Cave, Councilor Bushel. Daryl?
hey, through the chair. So yeah, just I guess a project I've had on the side of my desk for a while, waiting for the healing center to get built and just to review the overall janitorial needs of the few buildings that we do have. So the healing center's been open for a while, and when we have a good understanding of what the needs are for the buildings we do have, and with that new building, and so we've taken this out, we've been without a contract for a while, so we've taken it out to the market. We had big interest on it, we had 20 submissions. Lots of detail, and now just went through a scoring matrix, and the high score is Be Clean, happened to be the lowest bidder. So just bringing it to council and.
So these cover which buildings?
Covers this building, and there's we included in this Public Works building, Friday Clean, the healing center, community space. Wow.
Okay.
Yes.
Council, any questions? Councilor Beach.
Yeah, is Be Clean a local cleaning company?
They're not a local within Sippers, no, they've got 26 offices throughout Canada, so they're kind of a bigger player. It services a lot of places. So their closest main office would be Kelowna or Kamloops.
Bianca?
Oh, okay. And per our purchasing policy, like there's nothing in our purchasing policy when you go over 50,000 that differentiates between local, non-local. And also it's very hard to determine like local versus non-local. In our purchasing policy, it's within, I want to say 40 kilometers, which is a pretty far reach. But when it comes to over 50,000, our purchasing policy does not have anything in there that gives that room.
Councillor Butchell?
Yeah, through the chair. Yeah, I have a real, I know staff have done a whole bunch of homework on this. Daryl, you've had this, and Shirley have had this on the side of your desk for a while. It's come to council. It was pulled from one of the agendas a while ago, and I just have a real tough time, and it's with our policy. And we should have acted on our policy a while ago, especially Sycamore is, a very, very tough town to have a year-round business in. You struggle enough when you have to rely on tourism and that. And we have a contractor that's been with us for 30 years, and we're gonna have employees, and it could have a problem with it. It could shut his business down. So you're talking 11 people in the community that might not be working. But I had a couple questions. One, because one of the things about our purchasing policy is there's a couple things, procurement and purchasing, and I think I'd like to bring back to the cow meeting someday fairly quickly to review the purchasing policy and the procurement policy of Sycamoose. But one of the things I wanted to ask Bianca, what was the cost of cleaning all 5 buildings last year or up to date? Like I'm talking, I know the medical center is new. I did find out what the fees paid last year, but I'm just, what did we pay for cleaning those buildings on an annual basis?
Rough calculation,
Just a rough.
probably around 65,000. So just the medical clinic and alone, what we're currently paying is about 16,000 here for just the medical piece, of that clinic. And then this building was around 38,000. Yeah, and then the fire hall, for the longest time, the members were cleaning it, but that has not gone over totally well. So, yeah.
Okay, the thing I have a problem with is when we went for our first RFP, it was all included, like the 5 buildings were all included as a whole, as one bid. And then we, I think you probably heard from us a little bit that there's a little, some people in the community that can't do the whole project. But if we don't break it up, and then we'll run into a problem of them not being able to bid on the whole thing. So we went back to them, and is that what we did on the second one, Darryl? We allowed them to bid on it, right?
Yeah, we invited in whole or in part at that point. So we wanted to get some pricing for what it could be.
Mm-hmm. So if we spend 16,800 or 16,000 on the medical center, roughly. And I know Rob, his is roughly around 50,000. And I'd have to go out and ask these questions just to find out, because this is serious. When you have somebody that's been with us for 20 years, and we're gonna send them out to the farm, and we're gonna bring in somebody that's got 15,000 employees, and they've never worked in Sycamore before, and they gotta drive here, or they might have to hire somebody here, maybe. What kind of service are we gonna get for, like, we're really talking $10,000-15,000? Like, what kind of the difference? That's what I'm saying. Is what kind of service are we gonna get for if they put in a bid lower than what we paid last year? So, and we've added some buildings.
Yeah.
Right? So everybody's hungry. Everybody's very, very hungry, but at the expense of losing 11 people in our community. So those are some of the things I had a problem with. And one of the things I have a problem with on the purchasing policy is that in there, on item number 10, I think it is, it's when you go to a vote on something over $50,000, we should be able to see the information. The only thing I got to see is that we're going to spend $57,291. We should be able to make a decision on a financial decision and receive all the information. And that's where our purchasing policy says we're supposed to, but the only thing we've seen is just the actual $57,000. So that's why I think we really should go through the purchasing policy and the procurement policy.
Bianca, go ahead, and then
Yeah.
Councillor Rich.
I would just say that like our purchasing policy right now is really is pretty close to what best practice is, which is you put out an RFP to everyone and you pick your threshold of when you put parameters for local, which is on our purchasing policy currently is under 50,000. And the whole idea there is by closing off or making it hard on outside businesses, it's also not allowing businesses from elsewhere to move to your community and like start doing those works. And you're starting to almost get to the point legality wise of assisting business by not keeping it open to everyone. You know, we ask everyone for their best price. And that's the way that pretty much all levels of government do it. When we start putting in those other parameters, like, you know, sometimes our provincial government does, you have to use a certain union, you know, that sort of thing. That's when our costs are going to start to really drive up. So I think 50,000, over 50,000, which this one, I mean, the proponent that we've chosen is over 50,000. RFP process was the correct way to go. I think by not awarding it, I mean, this proponent, the references have been checked. They're doing contracts for interior health in our area. Is their headquarters not local? No, but however, they do have branches. So I think this is what we're following policy right now, where we're following best practice. Yeah, that's all I got to say on that one.
Councillor Rich and Councillor Bailey.
Through the chair, yeah, I'm gonna say I'm disappointed on this. I always like to hire local. I think our local people keep the money in the town. They volunteer here. They spend time in this community, so it's important to them. And I guess where I'm disappointed is I wish I would have known about the policy. And if we would have known that ahead of time. So again, you know, I'm 3.5 years in. This was a policy. I don't know when the policy was made. At no point, like right now, I'm finding out that over 50,000 and things changed. I did contact Dean, I think last week, and he told me that locals get a 10% waiver. But again, you know, we absolutely need to follow the rules we make. But I think we also do need to look at this policy and maybe going forward when we go into these kind of things that staff, you know, I'm a counselor. I don't work full time, so I don't know all the policies. So I would appreciate things like this then being brought to my attention moving forward. And then the other thing is have we looked, because I actually have Googled the top 3 and all of them have had lawsuit issues with their employees, which again brings me to concern. It's a 2-year contract. It doesn't hold them to what they're doing today, but all 3 top proponents that we do have had issues with the law in the court. So again, I just guess disappointed would be the word I would use.
Councillor Bailey.
I want to say staff, like I've read a lot of RFPs over my many years of management, and you guys did an excellent job on this RFP. It's exceptionally well written. It was very precise and exactly what you wanted. And so I think the difficulty that having, and I'm having too, right? Always want to support local as much as you want. Like I'm a local business owner. I know how that is. But this is kind of a but for me, because I gotta remain consistent in how I operate around this council table. I look for every possible dime to make sure taxes don't go up as well. And I mean, I can't fault anything in this RFP. It's not the answer I want, that's for sure. I can't fault it. And I feel bad about that. And I guess there should be a discussion about how far we can go with our local purchasing policy. I mean, Bianca is quite right. There is a line where you do get there's a legal line that we know we have to follow on how far we can go to actually assist the business. There's really no point to do an RFP process if all we're gonna do is put in so many rules that you eventually get an outcome, well, then let's just change the direct award policy, right? You just make it 100,000 instead of 50, you can do that. But you're gonna then raise your costs, and that could be a policy decision that council says, but then we need to have a discussion around that. So there's two things I think going on here. One is that how we want to go? And then two, the results of the RFP. And I'm just basing it on what the RFP comes out to. It's not the answer I want, but was it absolutely done properly? 100% it was. Like 100%. Like you've scored it, you said what the scoring process was, you were all very transparent about it. So I don't want this process to be called into question at all, because from my point of view, you absolutely did this thing professionally and you got the result that you got. It's not the answer we want, or we want it, right? I think everybody around the table would like to have the answer of, yeah, it was a local company based here, people that have put in tons and tons of time. Yeah, like it's. I guess a couple of questions that I do have is. There wasn't any kind of background on the proponent, but in staff's professional opinion, as part of this RFP, you've checked references, you've done the due diligence, and the scoring has led you to come to this. Was it at all kind of, I guess, I don't want to ask that, but I just want to make sure that I guess you had a lot of rigor around this and you went through the process and you can back up everything that was reported in terms of the points. So the system's fair.
Yes, Mr. Chair, yeah, and I'll likely speak to that in the general way. When we do an RFP, when I'm part of an RFP, and we're scoring it as a committee, I make it very clear with whoever I'm with, as we do it independently, that our notes and our records and our process could be challenged at any point. And so it's done with rigor and the references were checked.
Okay. Yes.
So can we ask what the difference between, the price difference was between the local and, can I ask that question? I don't. Yeah, go ahead, Sean.
Through the chair, it was published in the staff report. There was two local full bids, or close to full bids, that were presented, and the lowest local bid was a 52% difference. Am I correct on that, Dara? Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Rich.
The chair, and I just want to make it clear, I don't think this is a staff issue. I think this is a policy issue. And like Councillor Bailey said, I think that the RFP was followed to the T. And maybe that's something, if council wants that we look at our policy, and like Councillor Bailey said, maybe we do go to 100,000 or something like that. Obviously, I don't know how old our policy is, but cost of doing business has changed a lot, literally in the last 3 years. So appreciate everything that staff has done. And I think we have done this RFP properly. I just wish maybe we would have had a bit more information on the policy, and that may well be on me. I didn't ask, so I guess.
So our policy is based on best practices, correct?
Yes, and the last
Government
time it was updated, through the chair, was 2021, and there is allowance for under 20,000 and allowance under 50,000. There are two different percentages, and then anything over 50,000, there is no allowance for leeway for local. So staff absolutely at this point has followed the purchasing policy.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McCabe.
I think under contract law, we have an obligation to award to lead proponent. If we don't award to lead proponent, then we'll get a reputation that we're just putting in an RFP as a costing exercise to see how much that service would cost. Because some municipalities do that, they just put out an RFP just to figure out what the cost of that service would be without awarding. And then you'll be in a situation where no one responds to your base in the future.
Councillor Beach and then Councillor Bushel.
Yeah, everybody's made great points, but I am really disappointed as well. I do feel that we need to look at our policy then and you know, so that we can actually have some better guidance on beyond a certain amount of cost and can advocate a little bit differently for local business, because it's important.
Thank you. Councillor Bushel, Councillor Bailey, Councillor Evans.
Through the chair, like I say, I think staff have done, they've gone out and done their homework and done what they're supposed to do. That's what the policy reads. I mean, maybe we should have listened to Shauna when she said, we talked about maybe hiring our own employee at one time. But it's still to the life of me, if you add the two up, 16,800 and 56,700, it's $72,800 is what the contract is. We're gonna accept the $57,291 bid, who we've never dealt with before. But there's been some new stuff mixed into it, right? And then when you start looking at, I learned a lot about this. When you start looking about this, you could probably, if you looked at the library and you looked at the museum and the chamber, I didn't realize that we weren't charging them. We're cleaning their building, and it's probably not part of their lease agreement. And all these years I didn't realize that, that I thought maybe they were just cleaning it for them. Maybe we should be going back and charging them, because that's where we could save some money and get that money. We're really only talking, there's between their bid and our local bids is like 15 grand, 15. And if you took the library and the museum, that's 11 grand. So we're not far off. But some of the things have been added, and over time, I'm sure, I'm even sure that the local proponent had to throw in some extras because he's here all the time. If toilet plugs, he comes and fixes it, right? But you're gonna, if you're gonna call somebody in Kelowna to come do a service call, you'll be calling the plumber instead of our local contractor. So I just, like I say, I know you guys did your best. I just, it's not in my blood to accept this. And I think we got to really look at our policies, and I know we're going to vote today, and I agree with what Malcolm's saying. We gotta probably have to. I can't vote in favor of this one.
Shauna, did you want to make a comment, and then Bianca?
I'm just, the lowest local bid, there was a 52% difference, so I'm not. And then the other one was just slightly higher, and then there would have been the additional 16,000. So there's a substantial price difference. I was just listening to your numbers there and I was a little bit confused. And then I think Bianca has a comment with regards to how we charge out for the library and that, yeah.
Yeah, so for this building, the museum and chamber does not pay any rent for their space. So we do the entire janitorial for this building. The library pays based on square footage that they use. So they do pay for the janitorial services that go through us. It's part of their triple net lease.
Go ahead, Councillor Bush.
Is it in their contract?
Yeah.
The janitorial?
Yeah.
Okay. I've never seen the contracts.
Councillor Bailey, did you have, or Councillor Evans?
I did, but you know where.
I can't. Okay, Councillor Bailey.
Okay, but I was good. Okay, I'm trying to think this through, because like I said, RFP, I think that gave you the answer. So we're conflating two different issues here, really. How would we, and I don't know, staff actually has an answer for this. How would we define local? And is there a practice for that? And what does that look like? Does anybody know the answer to that?
Dean?
So local depends on what you're talking about. So some communities recognize local, you set up an office in your place, so forestry, for example, will recognize you as a local contractor if you set up a satellite office in their community. So if you're working boundary for one of the bills there, You set up a satellite office and then you'll be able to bid the RFP. So that's how they reckon. So your policy has to establish how local is recognized as part of it. So how council would choose to recognize local when you're, within the 40 kilometers or some other parameter with your headquarters or your residing residents. So that's defined by your policy and how you do that. As Bianca has mentioned, though, we got to be careful that we're not getting in a situation where we begin to assist business. And part of the reason these dollar figures are selected is you get to a certain threshold, it's very difficult to say you're not directly warding and impacting your assisted business, which legislatively we're not allowed to do. So we run that threshold, and that's why these policies, look to other communities, I always say in local government, there's no such thing as plagiarism. You go to other local governments, you got a lot of municipalities that spend a lot of money on legal bills to get their policies correct. Those are the policies we pull. We look at them, we review how they are, and analyze how those policies are established, why they're established the way they are. Competition law is complex. You begin to tinker with it and you can get yourself in a whole bunch of legal trouble really quickly. So we use policy that's been well vetted, well in place, and that's why we bring forward those policies to council and recommendations.
And then I just want to be clear because. Okay, so when we're talking about a 52% increase from the 57 is where we would want it to go, like, let's say everybody knows who we're talking about here. I mean, this is the awkward thing with this conversation too, because we actually, it's a small town, so you know the people. But it would be around 26 or 27,000, $28,000 more somewhere in that area. And so
just to be clear, so council cannot do that, this process. You can't just pick a different proponent and then go and award them.
No.
You'll actually be in the situation where you're gonna pay whoever you award it to, and you're gonna pay the best bidder.
Yeah.
So you actually end up paying $130,000 as a result of what you're talking about.
And I'm just asking questions because I want to have some clarity
Okay,
around this
Siobhan
because,
first and then-
we are talking about that. And like I said, there's two parallel discussions happening and they're both, in my mind, separate. The RFP, as I've said, I think staff has done that absolutely properly. So.
Thank you. Councillor Rich and Councillor McCabe.
Hi, I've got the RFP in front of me and I'm looking at item 10. And like the first line says, the district has the right in its sole discretion not to award a contract and has the right to reject any of all submissions, including the lowest bid, without giving any reason or doing so. There's then two more things under that. And number 11, so that's like to Mel's point, we actually can say no. We absolutely are allowed to say no. We don't need a reason. And then for number 11, it says, except as expressly and specifically permitted in the RFP, no bid will have any claim for any compensation whatsoever as a result of participating in the RFP. And by submitting a bid, each bidder will be deemed to have agreed that there is no claim. So again, when Jean, you say that they can come back at us, it says they can't. And we have the right to say, hey, you know what, we can pick whatever we want here. And I understand that we've got the 50% threshold, but in this RFP, that is under number 10 and 11. So I don't know if council has gone through this, but it's there's some neat stuff in there.
Just to be clear, sorry if I miscommunicated there. Which you can deny the whole thing and cancel the RFP. You do not have to approve this. That can happen. What you can't do is select a different proponent. So go outside of the RFP process and just pick somebody else. So that's what I was speaking to, and that's what was being discussed was you can't just pick a different proponent based on different criteria outside of the RFP process. You're correct. You do not have to award. You do not have to do anything at all as far as the RFP. You can cancel the whole thing if you wish, and then you can look at other options. As was discussed previously, you could look at hiring an employee and having a cleaning employee that works for the district that does this work. There are other options. Council has previously expressed a lack of interest in adding to our employee thresholds within the community. If that's where council wants to go, council could decide that. I mean, if this RFP come back with values that were significantly out of range, maybe that would be the discussion we would have brought forward to you. Previous discussion indicated there was no desire to add an additional employee to the payroll for that component, but that is an option for council. So you are correct in that you can just not do anything with this RFP and not award it. You do have that right, but what you don't have, and what I want to be really clear with, is the ability to select somebody different based on different criteria. You have to utilize the criteria of the RFP. That's what's been presented to you. You are correct that you don't have to award to anybody. You can go and restart that. And that's the case with any RFP. We always do that. What we most commonly see was the RFP values will come in way out of budget. So it's way too high. And then we would then be proposing that that just be canceled. That would be the scenario that's generally done. So that you're correct on that piece, but not the second piece.
Councillor McCabe.
Yeah, thanks. A while ago, I had a contract graduate certificate in contract management through Railroads University. And when you enter into an RFP, there's an expectation to award. And like Dean said, you can just cancel the RFP and not award. But if you don't cancel it, you have a legal obligation to award to the lead proponent. If you don't award to lead proponent, they can sue us for specific performance. What the cost of what they were going to profit, the profit they were going to make with that contract. So if we don't award to lead proponent, they could sue us for specific performance.
Thank you. Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, I mean, this is hard. The problem though is, you know, and I feel like in 3.5 years, we've had a consistent problem following our own rules, right? And put out an RFP and get a result. And, you know, there's at some point we've got to set up a system, and this is what I keep saying on almost every issue, where we follow through on it. Council issued the RFP. You know, we voted on that and it delivered a result. So now we're gonna say no to it, then what is our system? And what is, and then this is the problem I'm having, like, we're having a debate, but the problem is we're trying to figure out the rules here, and we actually know what the rules are, but we're trying to say, no, we don't like the results, and I agree with that. But where does this end? Like, so, you know, you just awarded $1 million RFP. What if we felt, oh, well, that wasn't a local award? So then do we say, no, we have to scrap that because it wasn't a local award? I mean, it just so happened that it was, so that's great. But what if it wasn't? Like, if we start taking the logical progression of this to where, right? To where does that end? And as I said, we're gonna have the policy discussion, then we're gonna have to separate that from the RFP, I feel. That's not before us right now, right? What we're voting on is the RFP. I think staff has done well, and we're not gonna follow those rules. We better come up really quickly, fast, rules that we're actually gonna follow, because that's just chaos, right? It's setting us up for disaster if we are going to start picking and choosing based on some arbitrary rules that we make up. And we had this discussion about TUPS, we had this discussion about other things, of where we go, oh, we don't like the results, so let's come up with something to change it. Well, that's only being done because there's 7 votes around this table. That's it. Let's be honest, right? So we can't do that. Like, somehow we gotta actually govern this organization with rules and policies and procedures and something. Not just, oh, I don't like the results and I'm gonna find something. And I wanna give all of this to the locals. I need to know what is a local policy. I need to know what all of these things are. It's uncomfortable. This is uncomfortable. None of us like this. Like I said, it's not giving us the answers we want. But we're not gonna follow the process that we actually voted for, then what do we have?
Councillor Evans.
Thanks through the chair. You know, a couple things. One is I put my hand up to vote for hiring staff so they can do this job. I can't micromanage staff on how they do their work as long as they're doing it properly and well, and they've done that. Secondly, I voted for a non-local contractor to build our medical center. And some of the people that wanted that contract were my friends, and they didn't get it, and they were local. So we voted to hire a contractor from out of province to build our medical building that was not a local person business. So sometimes these things are very difficult, but we can vote this down tonight. It's in our purview to do that, but when it comes to things being done properly, this has been done properly.
Councillor Bushel.
Yeah, just through the chair, I just wanted to touch base with Bianca again one more time and Shauna, the numbers. You said, what did we pay last year to do all 5 buildings? You gave me a ballpark, just a ballpark number, I can't.
65.
65. And if Rob's cleaning services put in a bid for 56,709. And Carrie's cleaning put in and she did Carrie, I don't know if you all know, Carrie did the medical center and she put in hers for 16,800 or 16, you said?
I don't.
Something like that. You know, you're at $72,800.
And then we do not have the community space, neither bid on the community space either. Yeah, that'd be additional.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
Also included.
Okay, then that didn't say that, but it's additional.
That would be additional. Yeah.
Councillor Rich, oh, sorry.
But the additional part, we charge the people for renting it and we get to recoup some of the money.
We have regular janitorial services that are happening, like not. Like, yes, there's some that we charge back on, but there's still just regular janitorial that happens just from regular walking through the building. So we have a regular maintenance for that. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I just, like I say, I without having the numbers, I can't have a hard time voting on it.
Councillor Rich.
Through the chair, and again, I don't think this is a staff issue. I think this is a policy issue. And I guess where it comes back to me, and maybe it's my own ignorance, that I just don't feel like I had the information in front of me to know what the policies are. And then we're supposed to vote on stuff when we don't know the policies. And that becomes an issue for me. I mean, tonight I just found out that we're at a $50,000 threshold. Last week I found out about the 10%. So we're being asked to vote on very complex RFPs without the information to do that. And I guess that's where my frustration is.
Dean, and then
A quick comment on that. So the RFP process is intentionally done at a staff level. You've hired some very good professionals. We're very fortunate to have the professionals that work for the district. That's why you have staff to do that RFP review process. That's why you have the people that you have. And we're very fortunate to have people like Daryl and Bianca and Cher and our staff who really do a great job with this. They are the professionals that you rely on to do that work for you. So that you don't have to do that at a council table. Like, that would be a difficult process. We would have to all learn about all the legal components of case law as well as contract law and all those pieces. That's why you have staff to do the RFP process for you. That's the way it's designed. You delegate that to staff, then you provide a recommendation to you, and you consider the recommendation. You rely on your staff, you rely on me as your CAO to ensure that your staff are following a fair and transparent process, which in this case is what's taken place based on the policy that you established. If you want to revisit in the future the policy and look at those components, I think there's a whole robust conversation that has to take place with parameters around case law, around contract law, around what you can and cannot do in the Local Government Act, which can't take place today. So that's like a whole committee of the whole discussion in order for you to be, as was said, informed when you make a decision on the policy. So this policy was established based on best practice. Whether that policy should be amended, you need to know all those other parameters before you start making changes to it and ending up with legal peril.
Councillor Bailey and then Councillor Rich.
Yeah, no, I mean, Dean, you're absolutely right on that. And I'm just wondering, I'm trying to figure out a way forward here, whether it would be better to give staff an opportunity to give council, whether it's in camera or out of camera, who's on it. And try to find a greater understanding. I hear people say that they're having a hard time because they don't have all the information. I wonder if it would be better if we had that in camera and that we go through all the proposals and do it that way and try to build a bit of an understanding around the table of where we're at. Because I don't want to talk about numbers. I don't want to release anything here that's confidential as part of the process. But I'm just throwing it out there to try to figure out the path forward. Maybe that's the way we do it, is that to give everybody around the table that level of comfort that everything was done properly. And I don't know how other councilors feel about that, but it is I'll put it out there.
Just to reiterate what Dean just said, that's like a whole bunch of legalese that we're gonna have to come in. And we have Dean and this team to make these decisions for us. Our job's not to get into.
It's just for them to give us confidential information in camera, that's all. I'm not to, that's, I mean, hey, if people don't wanna do that, that's fine. I just hear some people say they don't have all the information. Maybe that's one way to go forward on it. I'm just putting it out there. If people do not wanna do that, is that even practical, Dean? I guess maybe.
There's two parts to that. So first part would be, you're talking about opening up the RFP process and reviewing. That numerical, that's one component. The policy piece is a different piece, and that's what I was speaking to, is if you want to revisit your policy, that should have a robust report that gives you a whole bunch of background information. I'm not speaking to this particular one. This particular process is an RFP process. It is an open process. We got to be transparent with it. That's why it's before you in your regular council meeting. It's following the current policy you have in place. So this RFP process follows the correct approach based on the policy in place and based on the laws that are in place in BC. So you have that decision before you. Once you've made that decision on that component, what you do with the policy in the future is certainly something you could request. Staff would then come back with a robust report on that policy and begin that discussion with you.
Just clarify. It was just, if we had it in camera and you took everybody through all the numbers, what the implications of not going with the lowest bidder is to budget and all that sort of stuff. I don't know, like I feel like we're talking a little bit about numbers out here and other proposals, but I don't think we really should be either, right? I don't know. I'm trying to find it.
You brought staff on, you have a CAO, I've brought staff, so I'm trying to do the work that you've tasked me to do. We do an RFP process based on your policy. You have that reliance on us, we're delegated that responsibility.
Yeah.
We take it very seriously, so we do follow that process. We bring you a recommendation. No, so we make that recommendation, then you make a decision on it, and that's the process that we have under the Local Government Act.
Councillor Rich and Councillor Bushell, then we'll call the question, because I don't know how much farther we're gonna.
Through the chair, I think one of the things here, and it's not about staff or incompetence. I'm saying a lot of this is maybe council incompetence. Maybe we're not getting the information that we should be looking for or asking for. So, I mean, again, maybe we need RFP training. I don't know. I mean, a lot of the policies, I don't know how old they are or exactly how they work. So again, this isn't about staff not doing their job. I want to make that very, very clear. What I'm saying is when things like this come up and we vote on stuff, I don't know the parameters. So that is my own ignorance, and I will take that. I will say there were things I didn't know. Absolutely, that is your job to do that. But if it is my job to make policies, and if we have old policies or perhaps policies that don't work anymore and then need to be revisited, then that is our job as council to then revisit them, ask staff to revamp them, vote on them, and do that as a vote, one each of 7, and do that going forward. So this is more, not about this RFP or this RFP was done exactly to policy, and I appreciate staff for doing that. What I'm saying is maybe we need to know more about our policies when we vote. And that's just me personally. Maybe everybody else sitting on council knows them. But I think moving forward, that could be, maybe something we include. Hey, we're voting on bylaw yada yada from 1968, or policy whatever from 2021, and here are the parameters. That's all I'm asking for. And that's, like you said, Dean, that's a way bigger discussion on a different day. But I think that helps. That would help me, at least. I'm not going to speak for council. It would help me in my votes and my decisions.
Bianca, then Councillor Bushel.
Yeah, just a quick comment, just so all council knows. Usually for all these staff reports, we try to attach the purchasing policy. So it was attached on this one here. And then also the purchasing policy is readily available to everyone, actually, the public, in our document center under our policies folder. Just if you have any other policies of interest, they are pretty much all there. And if you come up with one that you cannot find, please let corporate know and we can find them for you.
Thank you, Councillor Bushel.
Yeah, through the chair, like I say, it's not a staffing thing, it's a policy. And, policies are made to protect the staff, protect the councillors, and protect, for the taxpayers to know what's going on. And like it says, they make parameters, $50,000 or more has to go to council for a reason, right? And that reason, it does say in here that, item 10 on the policy at F5 or whatever it is, it says, items you got to give to council is like budget and contract and information, and any other pertinent information is submitted to council for information. I can't make a decision on that because I don't have all the information. I'm guessing on it. I'm guessing on everything is what I am doing. So that's, and I'm not trying to stop the vote or anything like that. Let's vote. I just can't vote on it because I don't have the information.
Okay, I'm gonna call the question.
I'd like to say,
Um,
unless you want, if you want to call the question, you can vote on. Sure, I guess. Process, but I'd like to. You can expose it, but if you have to vote on it, I'd just like to say something.
Okay, go ahead.
I think this is gonna be a very important, and if we vote down this entire RFP, then I don't know what that's saying, but it's not saying anything good. And that's what I'm a little concerned about here, is that we did the process and we end up with that result, because then I don't know what the path forward. I'll be honest, like, I'm not comfortable with this vote. Because I think everybody wants to have this stuff go to the locals. I do too. I mean, I'd like to, I own businesses and I can understand that feeling. But I cannot vote to turn this down, because I think the road to that is just complete policy anarchy. Because it just means that, I don't know what it means, but it's certainly not based or rooted in, it's not rooted in anything. In policy or best practices or anything, right? And that's the issue right now. So, I mean.
Okay, let's call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Rich and Bushel. That's carried. Okay, we have a CAO report. Dean, you want to take it away?
Sure. So we've got a CA report. We do this on a monthly basis. So this is for March. It's giving council a bit of an update on what we're seeing in the community. 425 Main, the 5th floor was completed. They've got the roofing going on. You'll see right now they're installing the roofing panels to tar on to make it watertight. Windows are going in, so it's progressing. We met with the developer actually this morning. And on Monday, we met with the developing group, and then this morning I met with the salesman who's doing the residential sale as well as the commercial. So it looks like they've got one tenant that's close to signing on for commercial, and they've got a number of leases they want to get signed for residents to be able to go in. So things are progressing well. They seem satisfied with it, which is good. They came by to just give us some advisement on what they were looking at and what their numbers look like, which is good. At 534 Main Street, The new proponents opened up the Pizza Hut within that operation. The gas station should be open very soon. They've got an electrician working on the last electrical components. They just finished their building permit and their fire permit, so they can get that business license issued to open up the Petro-Canada component again. The new owners are doing those two pieces at this point. They have a significant amount of construction work required in order to finish the second restaurant piece. That was what was listed as being a Burger King. They haven't had any conversations with the franchise with Burger King about that potential of that. So that likely will not be a Burger King restaurant. It may be something else. They're not sure yet. They want to get in there. They want to get operational, get the convenience store, get the Pizza Hut working well, and then they're going to evaluate from what to do next. We also have another project beginning with 113 Weta, with the first two building permits for the first units to be constructed there. So we will see those issued in the next couple of weeks. Begin construction on that. Of course, our budget process carried through, which we saw today. Sewer plant is operating well, and Daryl's doing some great work with the ribs that we talked about a little bit earlier in the meetings today. And that's my update for this month. Any questions you might have?
Questions? Councillor Bushel, Councillor Evans.
Thanks, Dean, for that report. Just a question, springtime, customers are gonna be starting to roll into town. How's the cleanup coming up? 534 Main Street.
You know what? They've actually removed most of the exterior material. Somebody got in and broke a bunch of tile and was throwing it around, so they cleaned up all of that. About 80% of the debris is now gone. They did that before they opened up the restaurant component. I think there's some actual material that has value. There's some pallets of what looks like porcelain tile and some cabinetry that looks like they're going to get rid of, but they're almost there.
Okay. Councillor Evans.
Just a comment through the chair, CAO Strachan, I appreciate your hard work in managing all this, and it's exciting to see that building going up and all the other things that are happening in this town. It's been a lot, but I'm very thankful, and I really think it's great how we're making such progress.
Yep. Ditto. Councillor Rich.
Through the chair. Dean, I've got a couple questions. Do we have any update on the walkway under the bridge? The kids are, the weather's warm and the kids are starting to head to the beach. And will we have that access through the summer, or what's going to go on there? So that would be number one. Two would be the DQ barriers. I don't think we're going to have any more snow. When will those be going up? So we have that pathway at the stop sign. And three would be, did I see Dusty the sweeper out today?
I'll answer in reverse order. Yes, you saw Dusty.
Cool.
Our hand sweepers were doing the sidewalks and various components. Street sweeper was working. The weather was less than cooperative for a little bit there, but it seemed to dry out a little bit today, and we're making good progress. So the sweeping is underway, which is great to see. The barriers will go out soon, likely after we get the sweeping completed in that area. That's where we look at putting barriers and other post pieces out. Answer question two. Question one. Once the girders are in place, which right now they're doing, they're going to begin to look at the cleanup underneath there for the generators and so forth that are blocking portions of the walkway. They've committed to opening the walkway for the summer. As to an exact date, there's some pieces that we're going to see happen over the next month and a half that are going to drive that. It has to be safe. The girders have to be in place. The steel panel decking has to be in place. All of that gets craned in. Gets craned over that space. So it wouldn't be safe to have pedestrians in there when that's taking place. They hope to have that all wrapped up by the end of May and be able to open it up, but they haven't set a date yet. As soon as they do, we'll be advising council.
Thank you.
Perfect. Just a cash question on Petro-Canada. What does that look like for the DOS getting their money from the Petro-Can?
They've asked to complete the survey and provide the sale of the closed roadway. We have to complete that bylaw. They have to make that submission. Shouldn't say have to. They've agreed to make that submission and get that to us by the end of May.
Just the submission.
They have to do a survey, they have to get all those documents and deposited to us.
Okay,
And as soon as they do that, we'll go forward with the bylaw. Council has to complete the road closure bylaw. Without the survey, we couldn't do that bylaw. So we'll bring forward that bylaw as soon as council adopts the closure, we'll be able to sell it.
okay, perfect. Anyone else? Okay. All right, let's keep moving on here. Building inspection services agreement, recommendation that the mayor and corporate officer be authorized to enter into a service agreement with Michelle Vogue to provide building inspection services. Could I get a mover on that? Counselor Bailey, seconder, Counselor McCabe. Shauna, do you want to speak to that?
Sure. So we have our building inspection services renewal of her contract before you guys today. Michelle's been providing services for quite some time. She's providing all of our building inspection services at the moment, and we're just looking to renew for another year from April 1st to March 31st. None of the terms of the contract have changed except for the date and just the federal rate for mileage went up 0.5 cent. Other than that, all the terms of the contract, including hourly rate, are all the same as they were previously.
Perfect. Council, any questions? Call the question. All in favor? That's
I have a
good.
question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Counselor Rich, I did not see your hand. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, sorry. Yeah, I just was wondering what we pay her $100 an hour, but what does it cost us a year? Just so we're aware of that. I'm in favor. I just was wondering what our total bill for this contract is. Oh, did you hear me?
Yep, we did. We did.
Yep.
Counselor,
6,000 a month. I want to say.
No.
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
oh, just stand by. They're just scrunching some numbers here.
I had to pull it up.
Scrunching, crunching,
Sounded good.
scrunching and crunching. Both sound good. Counselor Bushel, do you have a question while we're in scrunchy mode?
Well, just a note that it says 20, the top of the agreement, it says 2024, so just that.
Oh, that was at one point. Sorry. It will be, if it isn't already.
It's get out.
Good job, Eagle Eye.
Yeah.
I wish.
No,
I think 2024 was a great year, wasn't it?
I don't.
That's budget.
I don't recall.
I gotta bump my hourly rate up to my kilometer rate to 72.
Average is around 6,000 a month. But it more peaks in the summertime and then goes off a bit in the fall.
Hey, did you hear that, Counselor Rich? Okay, thank you. Okay, all in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Okay, correspondence for information. Does anyone have any comments on correspondence for information? Anyone?
I just,
Counselor Bushel?
Chair, I just let Dean respond. This gentleman put in here that we should try to take over the platform under the bridge. You know, Dean could probably respond on it, but I'm sure fisheries wouldn't allow us to do that.
Remember we had a piano under the bridge a couple years ago, didn't we?
Yeah,
but I think this guy wants to keep that whole big platform. Scaffolding.
Oh, he wants the scaffolding. Oh, yeah, that's not a safety issue.
Fishery contract. Yeah, the ministry would allow us to keep a structured platform underneath the bridge.
No. Okay, anything else? Anything else in that group of correspondence? Go ahead, Counselor Beach.
Yeah, I was just looking at the letter from the Shuswap Watershed Council and something. Did we support Blair Ireland's letter, the Okanagan Basin Water Board? Did we write a letter in support of their concerns stated? Zebra and Quagga, and they now additional golden mussel threats.
I don't know where you're getting.
Okay, it's
Oh, you're okay. We're still in correspondence. You're down. Oh, you're down to reports here.
Oh,
Yeah, she's getting it.
okay, sorry. I thought it was.
Does anyone have anything else to add to correspondence? No? Okay. Then let's move on to the committee and regional district reports. Shuswap Watershed Council.
Now.
Hey, Pam.
Okay, now this is where okay, yeah, so I'm following up with the Shuswap Watershed Council. And the letter that was written to support a call for action. In regards to invasive prevention, and it was written by Blair Ireland, who is the chair of the Ocean Basin Water Board. And the Watershed Council, of course, is supporting the letter. I just cannot, I don't think that we actually wrote a letter to support that, and could we? Is it, we didn't support this letter from Blair Ireland, is what I'm thinking.
I don't think there was ever a motion or a request.
Yeah, I think it may not have happened. Okay, is it too late to actually respond and support the letter from Blair Ireland as the chair of the Okanagan Basin Water Board?
Dean, you want to take this one?
Yeah, well, he did,
So I believe this was a request to other groups within water basin.
yeah, it was.
World, it wasn't local governments that received it. We definitely have spoken.
We didn't get it.
Don't believe we requested for that. But we'd be happy to reach out to the Water Council, and I could ask them, we're providing muscle information on a regular basis to our community. We want to continue with the efforts to support that, so I'm not really sure that, so I can follow up. And see if they're interested, if they're looking for local governments to provide that, we could serve. Council's already provided support, and at their last council meeting provided a resolution in supporting initiatives for invasive mussels or invasive species within there. So we can provide that support without coming back for a resolution from council. Just reiterate what council has already stated. So if they were looking for that, I could certainly, I'll contact Blair if I have.
Yeah,
Happy to do.
Thank you. Okay. Now we are going on to, what do we have left here? The regular board meeting for the Columbia Regional District, that's for information. And now we're into public input. So any questions from the gallery? Yes, you may.
Oh, Scott, in the 421 Cotton Avenue, with the building of the property and services. I used to make all those CDs in yard. That's a fine drive that this is all over. It's been a 2.5 month battle. But this is for my heart and for what my wife and I have sat down in the last couple of days. On behalf of my wife Sherry, my daughter Nadine, and our son Brandon, we would like to thank the district for being this premises for the last 30 years. Thank you. 30 plus years at 11,000, I counted this morning, 11,035 days without missing a beat for you guys. 11,035 days without missing a beat. We started off at Riverside. We've come over here and helped you guys through all your parameters. We've gone through the COVID-19, and through evacuation. But us being a local company, we're always here. I'm emotional, but that's okay. I'm allowed to be. It's a sad day in the chapter of Ross Cleaning Services. Tomorrow morning, we're going to have to lay off 4 employees that were steadily involved with the cleaning of this district. We have a fantastic crew, a crew that most of you know about. They've been on time, they do excellent work, and they're great with their customers who walk in and out of this business. But the main thing I'm trying to point to, these aren't just employees. These are people who pay taxes in this goddamn community, spend their money in here, help all the various sports in this community. Now I have to say goodbye to them. This is going to be the toughest decision of my life. It's an emotional time for me. We always looked around and Sharon and I started our company for having good employees. We paid union rates and above with fantastic bonuses, but we were proud of it. Our profit margins were very little to him. In the last 10 years of my contract, I never got an increase. Our cost of livings were never implemented or nothing, but we never said a word to life movement. Without having local people who are working locally and contributing to Sycamoose, this district of Sycamoose would never exist. I remember after I married my wife Sharon, and my brother-in-law Alan Bell, who was one of the founding fathers of this community, he came up to me and said, "Hey, Rob." I said, "Hey, Dad, how you doing?" He says, "You just married my daughter, call me Mr. Bell." He said to me, because he owned Bell's Family Store, he said to me, "The key to success in this business, Rob, is using local people. Because without local people, you have nothing." And to my heart and to my death, I always remember that. And my wife Sharon and I can sit up here in front of you and say, we're proud of what we've done. But in the next few minutes, I'm going to leave this chamber for the last time. Our time that we spent together helping you guys out. Making sure that when he was going around and we had problems, we were there. That's not going to happen anymore. We're sorry we didn't pass your test. I guess at 68, I thought 1 + 1 = 3. But after hearing you tonight, I'm glad that you guys are on the right path to where you need to be headed. You need to look at these new policies you have and put them in place. I'm not sad now that I lost it. I'm happy for you guys. I'm happy for each one of you that you can sit down and say, we're learning from our mistakes. Deep down inside, I feel like I'm a failure. Because now my staff don't have jobs. And we're not employment. But I'm going to hold my head up high and say, we worked. We did the best job for you at the best rates. And we're very proud of Rob's cleaning and maintenance services. But our friendships go beyond that. I want to thank each and every one of you staff and the staff members upstairs for allowing us to be a part of your life. I'm not leaving on bad terms, guys. And I'm not leaving. We have friendships that will go on forever. But as a small business owner, you have to look what we just went through. I love all of you guys. You're fantastic. You have policies to do and you have things and how to do it. But I'm glad we all learned a lesson here tonight about you brought up here about policies. And we really do. I'm not blaming anybody. But it's a very difficult time for us and our families. I'm going to go around and shake each one of your hands and say thank you for allowing us to be part of your community. And I'm sure that the next company that comes in is going to do a beautiful job for you. So please, people, we're not leaving on bad terms. I'm just saying thank you for the hard work. Good luck to you guys.
Thank you, Rob.
Thanks, Sarah. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you. Thank you, Sharon. Thanks for all your.
Thanks, Sharon.
What's the core? I'm old. I don't want to trip. Good luck to you guys.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, something. And when I come here, I learn so much. That was great on a bunch of crap. It's, it was interesting that I came here to support somebody from our strata on this, and then to have to watch you folks take a process, and it is a process. When I worked in the oil and gas industry, I was an expediter. to get shit done. The procurement people put out the RFP, they did all the things, and you know what, my guys sometimes didn't get the contract. And you would not have had the conversation that you just had if it wasn't a meaningful thing for you that we have to move outside of somebody who is local. But that's the way this works, because as a taxpayer, if I found you took a better, you know, a higher number, because that person was local, even though I know this man and I appreciate him, you're raising my taxes this year. And you have to look at the process and follow the process. If you don't understand this, it's your job to figure it out. And Bianca's quite right. Maybe those people come into town and our town grows as a result of that. We don't know. But the thing is to keep the costs down, because it's gonna get even tougher for people. And we would love to continue to support someone in our community, but sometimes, and I think you get this, Rob, it just can't happen. So I just wanted to comment that I'm glad that my council is looking after my interests as everyday Joe, and I wish more people would come here and find these things out, you know, and I stand on my whatever it is, stand. Now, I'm often promoting what's going here and asking people to come, because you're not making willy-nilly decisions. You are following a process, a good process. And I'd like to thank you for doing that.
Thanks, Kelly. Soapbox. Soapbox is the word that you're looking for. Sorry. Anyone online? Okay, let's adjourn this council meeting. It is 7:31. Can I get a mover? Councillor Bailey, Councillor Bushel, all in favor. Siobhan, get better. Get some rest. Okay, see ya.